Hello, welcome everyone. In this question it says, a truck driver attempting to deliver some furniture has traveled 8 km to east and then he turns around and travels 3 km west, then 12 km east to his destination. A. What distance has the driver traveled? B. What is the driver's total displacement? So at the A, it says, what is the distance? That means what is the x? And at the B it says what is the displacement. That means this. So if we draw it for the A, if we add them each other, it is the whole distance. That means if we draw the directions north, south, east and the west, then first 8 km to east, it goes 8 km to east direction, then it goes 3 km to west direction, then it goes 12 km to east direction again. So for the distance we have to add them to each other. So distance gonna be 8 plus 3 plus 12. That means 23 kilometers. And for the B, it is the displacement. So it will be 8, because the direction of the 8 is the east, that means positive direction, and the direction of west is the negative direction. We will subtract 8 minus 3 plus 12. It's gonna be 17 kilometers. Hello, welcome everyone. In this question it says, while following direction on a treasure map, a scout leader in the Hawk walks 45 meters north and then turns and walks 7.5 meters east. What a single straight line displacement could the leader have taken to reach treasure? Firstly, in this type of question, we should draw the directions north, south, east, and the west. Then first, it goes 45 meters to north. That means in this direction, 45 meters. Then it says walks 7.5 meters to east. So in this direction, 7.5 meters. And it's asking to us what is the displacement. Displacement from initial point to final point. So this is our displacement or resultant vector, we can say. So r squared equal 45 square plus 7.5 square. If you take the root of both sides, r gonna be equal 2080. So r will be equal 45.6 meter in that direction. Thanks for listening. Hello, welcome everyone. In this question it says Dana passes soccer ball 6 meters directly across the field, Dana, and Dana then kicks the ball 14.5 meters directly down the field to Tawana. What is the ball total displacement as it travels between Zana and Tawana? So from Zana to Dana, let's say, how many meters? 6 meters. From Dana to Tawana, how many meters? 14.5 meters. Tawana. So it's asking from Zana to Tawana. That means from Zana to Tawana. This. So it will be r square equal, we are going to use Pythagorean theorem, 6 square plus 14.5 square. If you take the root of both sides, are gonna be 15.7 meters. Thanks for listening. Hello, welcome everyone. In this question it says a butterfly. It means it moves x, we can say 1.2 meter, and it is altitude 3.4 meter. Upon spotting flies 1.2 meter along the strike path at a height of 3.4 meter. Flower below, the butterfly drops directly downward 1.4 meter to hover in front of the flower. What is the butterfly total displacement? So it says after that it goes downward 1.4 meter. So this is the ground, we can say. And initial point of the butterfly is this initial, and the final point of the butterfly is this. So this is our displacement, we can say. So we are going to use Pythagorean theorem. R squared equal 1.2 squared plus 1.4 squared. If we take the root of both sides, are gonna be equal 1.44 plus 1.96. So that will be equal 3.4. Then are gonna be 1.8 meter. Thanks for listening. Hello, welcome everyone. In this case, how fast must the track travel to stay behind an airplane that moving 105 km per hour at an angle of 25 degrees to the ground? And at the second question, what's the magnitude of the vertical component of the velocity of the plane in item 1? That means these two questions are related to each other. And in this first question, it says actually what is the x component of the velocity. Let's draw it first. This is our velocity, which is 105 km per hour, and our angle is theta, which is 25 degree. At the first question, it's asking what is the actually x component. We have two components, x component and the y component. So Vx equal, it is at the adjacent, so we will use the cosine V times cosine theta. V is the 105 times cosine 25. So Vx gonna be 105 times cosine 25. It's gonna be 95 km per hour. At the second question, it says what is the vertical component. That means vertical component means y component. Then the y component stands for the upright. That means it is at the opposite. For the opposite, we use sine. It will be v times sine theta. V is the 105 times sine. Angle is the 25. So Vy gonna be 44 km per hour. Thanks for listening. Hello, welcome everyone. In this question, it says a truck drives up the hill with a 15-degree incline. If the truck has a constant speed 22 meters per second, what are the horizontal and vertical components of track velocity? So if the truck is moving with the 15-degree incline, that means velocity also has 15 degree. It makes our vector, which is velocity equals 22 meters per second, magnitude of the angle, which is theta 15 degree. And in this question, it says calculate the horizontal and vertical component. Horizontal component, that means x component. Vertical component, that means y component. X component stands for the adjacent, so it's gonna be Vx equal V times cosine theta. Y component gonna be at the opposite, so it will be V times sine theta. V here 22 times cosine 15. 22 times cosine 15, 21 meter per second. And Vy gonna be V times sine theta, that means 22 times sine 15. So it's gonna be 5.7 meter per second. Thanks for listening. Hello, welcome everyone. In this question it says, what are the horizontal and vertical components of the cat's displacement when the cat has climbed 5 meters directly up the tree? So it means it's climbed up directly 5 meters. So if we draw the coordinate system, positive y and the positive x direction, so the cat moves only in positive y direction, so y component gonna be directly positive 5 meters. And if the vector lies only in one component, that means x component, y is 0. If it lies in the y component, x component is 0. Thanks for listening. Hello, welcome everyone. In this question, it says a football player runs directly down the field for 35 meters before turning to the right at an angle of 25 degrees from his original direction and running an additional 15 meters before getting tackled. What is the magnitude and direction of the runner total displacement? So in this question, let's draw a football field. And it says it goes firstly in the downfield, that means towards the center, 35 meters. And then it says this is before turning to right. So, and then it's turned to right. And it's turned to right with the angle of 25 degrees. And it goes 15 meters. And let's say if this is the vector A and this is the vector B. And first of all, we're going to calculate the component of the vector A and the vector B. This is the x component of the B, and this is the y component of the B. And the vector A has only x component. Its y component is 0 because it's lie on the x-axis. So AX equal 35 meters, directly we can say. And the BX equal B times x component of it at the adjacent, so we will use the cosine 25. So it will be B, which is 15 times cosine 25. 15 times cosine 25 equal 14 meter, we can say. And the BY, it is lying in the negative y direction, so result of the BY must be negative, so we will put here negative sign directly. It will be B times sine 25, so result will be negative 15 times sine 25, so the result gonna be negative 6.3 meters. And then these are the component. In the question it says what is the magnitude. That means we have to calculate magnitude of the resultant vector. Then it says what's the direction, so we have to calculate the angle. And then the initial point, let's say it's here, and the final point here. So this is the initials, we can say, and this is the final point. Then this is our resultant vector. So to calculate the resultant vector, we have to find its component. So we have to calculate the Rx and the Ry. Rx is equal Ax plus Bx, and the Ax is 35 plus Bx is the 14, so it will be 49 meters. And Ry is Ay plus By. Ay is 0 plus By is negative 6.3, so it will be negative 6.3. And to calculate the magnitude of resultant vector, we will use Pythagorean theorem. R square equal Rx square plus Ry squared. So if you take the root of the both sides, R will be equal, Rx is 49 square plus Ry is the negative 6.3 square. So R will be equal 49.3 meter. And then we have to calculate the direction by the inverse tangent formula. Tangent inverse Ry over Rx. So tan inverse is Ry is the here negative 6.3 over Rx is the 49. Then theta gonna be negative 7.3 degree. Thanks for listening. Hello, welcome everyone. In this question it says a plane travels 2.5 km at an angle of 35 degree to the ground, then change direction and travels 5 km at an angle of 25 degree to the ground. What is the magnitude and the direction of the plane's total displacement? So it's asking magnitude and the direction. So we have to do two calculation. First of all, let's draw the givens. And firstly, it goes 2.5 kilometer. How many degree? 35 degree. Then it changes direction. It goes 5.2 kilometers with the 22 degree. And we have to calculate magnitude of the resultant vector and direction of the resultant vector. This is the initial point and this is the final point. So we have to separate the component of each vector. Let's say this is the vector A, this is the vector B. So this is the AX, this is the AY, and this is the BX, and this is the BY, we can say. AX, AY, BX, and the BY, all of them acting in the positive direction. So all of them result gonna be positive. And let's calculate first X component and Y component of the A. So AX is equal A times AX lies in the adjacent, so we will use cosine theta. So it will be 2.5 times cosine 35. So that will be equal to kilometer. And the AY equal A times sine theta. So it will be equal 2.5 times sine 35. So this will be equal 1.4 kilometer. And now I'm going to calculate BX and the BY. BX, it's also adjacent, so it will be B times cosine theta, and B is the 5.2 times cosine 22, so it will be equal 4.8 kilometer. And BY, it will be B times sine theta, 5.2 times sine 22, and it will be equal 1.9 kilometer. Now I'm going to calculate Rx and the Ry. Rx is AX plus BX. AX is the 2, BX is the 4.8. 2 plus 4.8, which is 6.8 kilometer. And the Ry is AY plus BY. AY is 1.4 plus BY is 1.9. So result gonna be 3.3 kilometer. And R square equal Rx square plus Ry squared. So if we take the root of the both sides, R gonna be equal, Rx is the 6.8 square plus 3.3 square under root. So that will be equal 7.5 kilometer. And now we have to calculate the direction. That means we can calculate direction with the inverse tangent formula. Tangent inverse is Ry over Rx. So theta will be tangent inverse. Ry is 3.3 kilometer over Rx is 6.8 kilometer. So the angle gonna be 26 degree. Thanks for listening. Hello, welcome everyone. In this question it says a tiger trainer in a zoo runs 8 meters north, turns 35 degrees east of north and runs 3.5 meters. Then after waiting for the tiger comes near, the trainer turns to the east and runs 5 meters to get tiger in the cage. What is the trainer total displacement? So here in this question it's asking only displacement, so we have to calculate only R. That means magnitude of the displacement. And here we have a directions. So let's draw the directions: north, south, east, and the west. First it says it moves 8 meters north, 8 meters. Then it turns to east of north. That means in this direction it is the east of north with the 35 degree. It runs 3.5 meters, and then after it goes to east 5 meters. So east means in this direction 5 meters. So vector A, vector B, and the vector C, let's say. And we will calculate the component of the vector A, vector B, vector C. Then we will calculate the x component of R, y component of R. Then we will have result of the magnitude by the Pythagorean theorem. And the x component of the A is 0 because it goes only in y direction. And the y component of the A, it is 8 meters because only it goes in the y direction. For the B, we have x component and the y component. This is the x component of the B. This is the y component of the B. So bx we will calculate and the by we will calculate. Now by lies in the adjacent, so we will use cosine for the by. So it will be b times cosine theta. So the bx will be b times sine theta. B is the 3.5 times sine. The angle is 35. And then for the by, it is b times cosine theta. B is the 3.5 times cosine 35. Bx equal 2 meters. By will be 2.8 meters. And for the vector C, we have only x component. Cx equal 5 meters because it lies only in y direction. So Cy will be 0. And then Rx will be Ax plus Bx plus Cx. Ax is 0 plus Bx is 2 plus Cx is 5. So it will be 7 meters. Then Ry, Ay plus By plus Cy. Ay 8 meters plus By 2.8 meters plus Cy is the 0. So it will be 10.8 meters. Then R square equal Rx square plus Ry square. You take the square root of both sides. R will be equal in the root of Rx is 7 square plus Ry is 10.8 square. So R gonna be 12.8 meters. Thanks for listening. Hello, welcome everyone. In this question it says airplane flying parallel to the ground undergoes two consecutive displacements. The first is 75 kilometers 30 degree west of north, and the second one 155 kilometers with the 60 degree east of north. What's the total displacement of the airplane? First of all, let's draw the directions. And first one is 75 kilometer west of north, south, east, and the west. We can say west of north in this direction, but the angle will be where? From north to west. That means angle will be here. So it is the 30 degree and 75 kilometer. And then it says 155 kilometer, 60 degree east of north. So it's east of north, it's here. The angle will be where? It says north, east of north. That means from north to east. So here we have a 60 degree, 155 kilometer. As you see, between these two vectors, we have a 90 degree. 30 plus 60 is 90, so we can use directly Pythagorean theorem. It means they become like that. 90 degree, 155, 75 kilometer, and the kilometer. So resultant vector gonna be 155 square plus 75 square. Then R will be equal 172.2 kilometer. Thanks for listening. Hello, welcome everyone. In this question it says an autographed baseball rolls off 0.7 meter high desk and it strikes floor 0.25 meter away from the base of the desk. How fast was the ball rolling? So if we draw the desk, let's say this is the desk, and the height of the desk, that means y equal 0.7 meter, and the things rolling off it, and it fall down like that, and the x component of the distance, that means x is 0.25 meter. It says from the base of the desk. And question says how fast was the ball rolling. So at the initially we have v initial x. So it's asking what is the v initial x. And for the x component we have only one formula, which is x equal v initial x multiplied by the time. So to calculate v initial x, it is x over t, and the x is given in the question, which is 0.25. So if we calculate the time, that means we solve this question, and we will calculate the time with the y component, and we have v initial y here, and that is 0 because it's rolling on the x component. So I will use the formula of the y equal v initial y times t plus half gt squared, and initial y is 0, so this will be 0. So y equal half gt squared, and the y given in the question 0.7 and equal half times, I will take the g, 10 times t squared. So from here 2 and 10 cancel, 5. So t squared equal 0.7 over 5. If you take the root of the both sides, t gonna be 0.37 seconds. And then we will substitute this value to here. So x is 0.25 and t is 0.37. So the result gonna be 0.67 meter per second. Thanks for listening. Hello, welcome everyone. In this question it says a cat chases a mouse across 1 meter high table. The mouse steps out of the way and the cat slides off the table and strikes the floor 2.2 meter from the edge of the table. What was the speed when the cat slid off the table? So let's say this is the table, and the height of the table, it is 1 meter, and let's say this is the cat. It doesn't look like, and it will move like this, and its distance from the edge of the table 2.2 meter. So x is 2.2 meter, and this is the y is 1 meter. And it's asking what is the v initial x. And the v initial y, at the first it is 0 first of all. And to calculate v initial x, we have a formula. V initial x equal x over t. And the x is given in the question and t is unknown, so we have to calculate t. And we will calculate t from the y component. Y equal v initial y times t plus half gt squared. And y initial 0, so this will be 0. And y equal half gt squared. And y is 1 meter. Half, let's say g is 10 times t squared. If you divide these two, it will be 5. And if you divide both sides, 5, t squared will be equal 1 over 5. If you take the root of the both sides, t will be 0.45 seconds. So we will substitute in this formula to here. V initial x equal x over t. X is 2.2 meters over time is 0.45 seconds. So result will be 4.88 meter per second. Thanks for listening. Hello, welcome everyone. In the third question, it says a pelican flying along a horizontal path drops a fish from a high 5.4 meter. The fish travels 8 meter horizontally before it strikes the water below. What is the pelican's speed? So pelican speed and the speed of the fish, at the first it must be same. Let's say this is the pelican which is flying and it's released the fish. Let's say the fish, and it will have initial v initial x, and it is high from the level of the water. It is 5.4 meters. That means this is the y, and it will follow this path. Then horizontally it says it moves 8 meters, so x will be 8 meters. And it's asking what is the pelican speed. So actually it's asking what is the v initial x. V initial y in this question it is 0 because it was flying horizontally. To calculate v initial x, we have one formula. It's equal x over t. X is given in this question. T is unknown. So if we calculate the time, that means we calculate the v initial x. So we will calculate the time from the y component free fall part. Y equal v initial y times t plus half gt squared. V initial y is 0 here, so y is 5.4 equal half times g is 10, let's say, times t squared. Divided by this 2, it will be 5. If you divide it by both sides 5, t squared will be equal 5.4 over 5. If you take the root of the both sides, time will be 1.04 seconds. And if you substitute this time in this formula, v initial x equal x over t. X is 8. Time is 104. So the result will be 7.7 meter per second. Thanks for listening. In the question 4, it says if the pelican in item 3 was traveling at the same speed but was only 2.7 meters above the water, how far would the fish travel horizontally before hitting the water below? And here it says it is not 5.4, it will be 2.7 meters, and the x will be what? And the initial speed, as we calculate in the question 3, it is 7.7. To calculate the x, we need v initial x times t. V initial x is given according to previous question, and we need to calculate time. So if we calculate time, that means we solve this question. We will calculate the time from the y equal half g t square, and y is now 2.7 equal half times g is the 10, let's say, times t square. If we divide these two, it will be 5. If we divide both sides, t square will be 2.7 over 5. If we take the root of the both sides, t gonna be 0.73 second, and we will substitute this in this formula. X equal v initial x times t, and the v initial x 7.7 times 0.73, result gonna be 5.6 meter per second. Thanks for listening. Hello, welcome everyone. In this question, is in a scene in an action movie, a stuntman jumps from the top of the one building to another building 4 meters away. After running, he laps at a velocity of 5 meters per second at an angle of 15 degrees with respect to a flat roof. Will he make it to another roof, which is 2.5 meters shorter than the building he jumps from? So in this question we have two buildings, and the distance between them 4 meters. So x in this question 4 meters, and the difference in their height, it is 2.5 meters, and the guy jumps from here to there, and there is an angle 15 degrees, and the velocity here 5 meters per second. And the question says the guy can jump the other side or no. In this question we have to calculate first component of the velocity. So x component and the y component, v initial x and v initial y. V initial x is equal 5 times cosine 15. V initial y is 5 times sine 15. 5 times cosine 15 is 4.8 meter per second. 5 times sine 15, 1.3 meter per second. And then in this question we have to calculate the time for the x. That time will be same as the for y component. And we have a formula, time equal x over v initial x from the formula of the x component. X is 4 meters and the v initial x is the 4.8 meter per second. Then time gonna be 0.83 seconds. And then in this question we have to calculate delta y. And the delta y in this question equal v initial y times t plus half gt squared. And the y equal v initial y is 1.3 times time 0.83 seconds plus half times negative 10 times 0.83 squared. And y will be 1.1 minus 3.44. So due to this, result will be negative 2.34 meter. And what does the mean of the 2.33 meter? The guy will jump like this to here, and it will go down from this level to down 2.34 meter. That means about the level of the second floor, it's about 15 centimeter. That means he can jump the other floor. Answer of it will be yes. Thanks for listening. Hello, welcome everyone. In this question it says a golfer hits a golf ball at an angle of 25 degrees to the ground. If the golf ball covers horizontal distance 301.5 meter, what's the ball's maximum height? So if we draw it like this, the angle is 25 degree and it will go like this. And the x is given, which is 301.5 second. And the question says what is the maximum height? At the midpoint it will be maximum height, so that is y max, we can say. At the y max, velocity of the y component will be 0. And in this question these are only givens, so the initial velocity doesn't given, whatever. And it says what is the y max, and we can calculate the y max in a different formulas, but first of all we have to calculate initial velocity. We have to find initial velocity because we have some formulas. V final equal V initial plus gt, V final square equal V initial square plus 2gy, or we have one more, y equal V initial y times t plus half gt squared. We have those three formulas and we have to calculate the y max, so I can use second or third one. Even in the first or the second or third one, I need the initial velocity of the y component. So anyway, I have to calculate initial velocity. So here x equals v initial x times t. I know this formula. And before it, what is the v initial x? V initial x is the v initial times cosine 25, and v initial y is v initial times sine 25. So due to this, time for the whole, it will be what? Time equal x over v initial x, and x is 301.5 over, instead of v initial x I will substitute v initial times cosine 25, and then I need the y max, so I have to use half of the time. So this is the whole time, so I have to take half of it because I have to use time for the up. So it will be half of this 301.5, half of it will be 150.75 over v initial times cosine 25. And this is the time for up, raise up time through the half of the way, we can say. And then I will use Vy final equal Vy initial plus gt. And Vy final at the maximum point, it is 0. Vy initial given, and the g is the negative 10. It's going upward. And the time I will substitute what I find here. And then Vy initial equal gt, it means. Then I will continue from here. v initial times sine 25. That's equal, g is the 10. And the time I calculate for the half of it, 150.75 over v initial times cosine 25. And I will set the v initial here, sine here. So v initial times v initial squared it will be. And it will be 10 times 150.75 over sine 25 times cosine 25. So if you take the root of both sides, v initial will be 62.7 meter per second. Then now I can calculate the y from the third or second formula. I will pick this formula. V final y square equal v initial y square plus 2 gy. And the final y is 0. And the initial y I have to calculate. The v initial y equal v initial times sine 25, as I know. So v initial, as we calculate, 62.7 times sine 25. So that will be equal 26.5 meter per second. Then g is the negative value, and the 10, 2 times 10 here, 2 times 10, 20, negative 20. If you send it the other side, it will be 20y equal 26.5 square. If we divide both sides, 20 and the 20, so y will be 35.1 meter. Thanks for listening. Hello, welcome everyone. In this question, it says a baseball is thrown at an angle 25 degree relative to the ground at a speed of 23 meters per second. If the ball was caught 42 meters from the thrower, how long was it in the air? So it's asking what's the time and how high was the tallest spot in the path. So it's asking also what is the y max, maximum height, it means. So if we draw this, it will be like that. V initial is 23 meter per second, and the angle between the ground 25 degree, and it will follow a path like this. X is equal 42 meter, and this initial velocity has component v initial x and the v initial y. First of all, we have to calculate initial x and the initial y. V initial x equal 23 times cosine 25, and that will be equal 20.8 meter per second. V initial y equal 23 times sine 25, and it will be 9.7 meter per second. So the first question says what's the time? I can calculate the time from this formula. X equal v initial x times t. V initial x is given, x is given, and time is unknown, so I can calculate it. Time equal x over v initial x. X is 42 meters. V initial x is the, as we calculate, 20.8. So it will be 2 seconds. And it's asking also highest point. So that means at the mid part of it, y max. At the y max, velocity, y component of the velocity is 0. So we have initial and final velocity of the y component. Initial velocity of the y component is 9.7 and the final velocity of the y component 0 it will be. And I will use this formula: v final y squared equal v initial y squared plus 2gy. And final is 0. G is negative 10. If we send it other side of the equation, it will be 20 y equal v initial y 9.7 squared. And if you divide it by both sides, 20, y will be 4.7 meter. Thanks for listening. Hello, welcome everyone. In this question it says salmon often jump waterfall to reach their breeding grounds, starting 2 meter from a waterfall that is 0.55 meter high. What minimum speed must salmon jumping at an angle of 32 degrees to leave water continue to upstream? If we draw it, it will be like this. Let's say the fish is here, like this, and height of the waterfall, that is y, 0.55 meter, and the distance between waterfall and the fish, which is 2 meter. And it say what's the minimum speed. So when the fish jump, when it's reached here, the velocity of the y component must be 0 here. So then v initial is unknown, but the angle is given 32 degree, and it's asking what minimum speed. So we have to find v initial, and v initial has x and the y component. V initial x is v initial times cosine 32, v initial y equal v initial times sine 32. So if we use the formula of the v y final square equal v initial y square plus 2gy, and final velocity will be 0 of the y component. So if we send, and the g is the negative 10 here, if we send the other side 20, y equal v initial y squared. Instead of v initial y, I will substitute this. So 20 times, and the y also is given here 0.55 equal v initial times sine 32 squared. And if we divide both sides, sine 32 squared, sine 32 squared, v initial square will be 20 times 0.55 over sine 32 squared. Then if we take the root of both sides, v initial will be 6.26 meter per second. Thanks for listening. Hello, welcome everyone. A quarterback throws football to stationary receiver who is 31.5 meters down the field. If the football is thrown at the initial angle 40 degrees to the ground, what's initial speed must quarterback throw the ball for it to reach the receiver? So it's asking initial speed. That means what's the initial? What is the ball's highest point during its flight? So it's asking y maximum high. So the system is like this. Let's say this is the ball, and it will throw, and it will follow like this way path, whatever. And it's asking what is the y max, And what's the V initial here? And it is thrown with the 40 degree. First of all, we have to calculate the component of the initial velocity, x and y component, but we cannot calculate it directly because V initial is not given. V initial x is V initial times cosine 40, V initial y equal V initial times sine 40 first of all. Then we have to calculate the time respect to V initial. So we can use the formula of the x equal V initial x times t. And x is given 31.5 meter. So time equal x over V initial x. Time will be x is 31.5 over V initial x, V initial times cosine 40. And we have to use half of it to find the y, because at the half Vy equal 0. So half of the time it will be time for up part. So half of this number will be 15.75 over V initial times cosine 40. Then V final equal V initial plus gt, and this final initial for the y component, final velocity is 0, g is negative 10. If we send it the other side, it will be V initial y equal gt, and V initial y is V initial times sine 40, g is 10 times t is 15.75 over V initial times cosine 40. I will send V initial here, sine 40 here. So it will be V initial square equal 10 times 15.75 over sine 40 times cosine 40. If we take the root of the both sides, V initial will be 17.9 meter per second. So we have done first step because it's asking what's the V initial. Now the time we have to calculate Y max. To calculate Y max, I need V initial Y. V initial Y equal V initial times sine 40. V initial, now I know it, 17.9 times sine 40. So V initial Y gonna be 11.5 meter per second. Then I will use the formula of Vy final square equal Vy initial square plus 2gy, and g here will be negative 10, and final velocity of the y at the highest point it will be 0. So 20 y, if we send the 2 times negative 10 times y to other side of the equation, it will be y initial square. So 11.5 square. If you divide it by both sides 20, so y will be 6.61 meter. Thanks for listening. Hello, welcome everyone. In this question, it says a passenger at the rear of the train traveling 15 meters per second relative to Earth throw a baseball with a speed of 15 meters per second direction of the opposite of the motion of the train. What's the velocity of the baseball relative to Earth as it leaves the thrower? Hands, show your work. So let's say this is the train and it's moving in this direction with the 15 meters per second. Here there is an observer, stable observer, and there is a one guy on the train, and he throw a ball. That ball is the opposite direction of the ball in the opposite direction and the same velocity as the train, which is 15 meters per second. So due to this observer, what's the velocity of the ball? So both velocities are opposite each other. So to calculate the relative velocity, we have to subtract them. 15 minus 15, it will be 0. Thanks for listening. Hello, welcome everyone. In this question, it says a family went on a sea tour in Beirut. If the boy Hawa runs to the back of the boat at a speed of 3.5 meters per second, while speed of the boat 18 meters per second, what would Hawa's speed with respect to an observer at the pavement? Interpret your work. That means it's asking velocity due to stable observer. Let's say this is the boat and it's moving in this direction with 18 meters per second velocity. There is one guy in it and it's moving in the opposite direction with the 3.5 meters per second. And there is another stable observer. The question says what's the highest speed due to this guy. So velocity of relative will be 18 minus 3.5. That means it will be 14.5 meters per second because the velocities are opposite each other. Thanks for listening. Hello, welcome everyone. In this question it says a ferry is crossing a river. If the ferry headed to north with a speed of 2.5 relative to water and the river velocity 3 meters per second to the east, what will the boat's velocity relative to Earth be? So remember, include direction and describing velocity. So in this question it's asking what is the velocity. If we draw a river and the boat direction to the north, so it will be V boat, it will be 2.5 meters per second, and the velocity of the river in this direction, it is velocity of the river 3 meters per second. So question says what is the magnitude and the direction actually. To calculate the velocity, river in this direction and the boat in this direction, so resultant will be in this direction. So velocity of relative 2.5 and 3 meters per second. So we have to use Pythagorean theorem. Relative velocity square equals 2.5 square plus 3 square. So if we take the root of the both sides, relative velocity will be 3.9 meters per second. This is the magnitude of the resultant vector or relative velocity, we can say. And we have to calculate also direction. Theta equal inverse tangent and opposite of the theta 2.5 and adjacent of the theta 3. So the angle gonna be 40 degree. Thanks for listening. Hello, welcome everyone. In this question it says a pet store supply truck moves with the 25 meters per second to the north along the highway. Inside, a rabbit moves at the 1.75 meters per second at an angle of 35 degrees east of north. This is important. What is the velocity of the rabbit relative to road, relative to stable observer? First of all, this is the speed of the truck, let's say V truck 25 meters per second, and then the rabbit moves inside of it to direction of the east of north 35 degree east of north 35 degree. So this is the east of north. So the angle must be here, which is 35 degree. And this is the velocity of the rabbit. And it is velocity of the rabbit, we can say 1.75 meter per second. So it has component velocity of rabbit x component, velocity of rabbit y component. First of all, we have to calculate x and y component of the rabbit. Velocity of the rabbit x component, it is 1.75 times sine 35. Velocity of rabbit y component 1.75 times cosine 35. This will be 1.43 meter per second. The other one will be 1 meter per second. To calculate V total, we have to use Pythagorean theorem. That is square and the Vx square plus Vy square. So V total squared equal. In the x component we have only Vrx, so that is only 1. That means 1 squared plus for the y component we have two different vectors, so we have to add them each other. 25 plus 1.43 square. So if you take the square root of the both sides, V total will be 26.4 meter per second. And also we have to calculate the direction because it says velocity. So theta equal inverse tangent opposite over adjacent Vx over Vy. So tangent inverse 1 over 26.4. So it will be 2.17. And the angle will be from here to here, we can say this one. So we have to mention east of north. Thanks for listening.